Senator Desjardins.
Mr. Gunn, I'll ask you to put your earpiece on. Can you understand me? Mr. Gunn? Perhaps this is a false perception, but I thought you were a bit nervous when you arrived here, a bit nervous about the electoral reform. We've talked a great deal about your organization, which does excellent work, but what is of concern to you about the reform in the Fair Elections Act?
Now Elections Canada is telling us that we would not be able to continue to receive their support to do our student vote program. And it's not just the money, it's where the money comes from. When we're trying to get into schools across the country, a lot of the time the first question from a school administrator may be, well, who's behind this? And if we can simply say that it's Elections Canada, there's no more questions. That is the greatest threat to us. Our ability to grow into the future if we don't have that brand attached to us, right? That's why I'm here. I think we can get to half of all schools in 2015 if we've got that brand attached to us. If I have to say, oh, well, it's a big foundation or it's individual donors or whatever, it's just not as clean as being able to say Elections Canada is the group that's behind us. That's my concern.
Well, I wanted to hear what you said. Perhaps I had a poor perception. I thank you for your answer, sir.
Time for clarification. You said that you've asked Elections Canada, or Elections Canada has advised you that with the changes, they'll be unable to or prohibited from funding the program going forward. Mm-hmm. And it's been raised by our counsel, Mr. Spano, in terms of interpretation. I wonder if you've spoken to anyone else with respect to Elections Canada's interpretation, because if you look at the clauses that are impacted here, one dealing with communications, the other has been actually broadened, and that's dealing with the ability to conduct pilot projects. And if you look at the 18.1, the Chief Electoral Officer may carry out studies on voting. I'm just wondering if there's a question there around the interpretation. In fact, you may not be falling out of the queue in terms of qualifying for ongoing funding. I don't know. I'm just raising that as an issue.
I think that there's been 2 months for someone on the government side to clarify that interpretation, just so that you could give somebody else 45 minutes to be here instead of me. I've communicated with the Minister's Chief of Staff, and I think that if that's the case, that would be great. I mean, someone could say that. I think there's been an opportunity. We've definitely been kind in giving a way to get out of this without anyone being upset. So that would be great if someone wants to tell us that. But
well, we'll seek clarification on it.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you. That would be great. Oh, and by the way, we should all congratulate Mr. Runciman. When he was in provincial politics, he won a student vote back in, it was back in, for Leeds-Grenville. Is that correct, sir? Yep. So we got 30% of the student vote, and I think there was just 2,500 kids or so participating. So congratulations, sir.
The reincarnation of George Baker. Okay, Senator Batters.
Well, and I have someone else. My husband, Dave Batters, was the Member of Parliament for Palliser in Saskatchewan from 2004 until 2008, and I'm pretty sure that he also won student vote.
He did.
And he very much enjoyed student vote because he got to go out to all those schools when he was a young student. He decided from the time he was a young boy that he wanted to be either a Member of Parliament or an MLA, and he achieved that goal in the very first time that he ever ran for elected office and held that position for 4.5 years. So certainly organizations like this are a key way to make sure that our students are engaged and at a very early age they know about these types of processes.
Can I ask you a question, Ms. Batters, if that's okay?
Sure.
Do you know Speaker Dan D'Autremont?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh! I was just a guest at the Saskatchewan Provincial Legislature for the last 4 days since Saturday. I think I'm maybe becoming an annual speaker there at their Teachers Institute.
Oh, great!
And if that man is a reflection of Saskatchewan people or just any Canadian, we're all lucky. He's just a tremendous fellow, and pass
Yes.
on our kind words if you could.
Absolutely. I will tell him to read Hansard,
Good.
watch you on CPAC. And I have to say that I think it's maybe the first time ever at a Senate committee where somebody has discussed the location of their first kiss.
We're always breaking ground. We're trailblazers.
So I just want a little bit of clarification. Thank you for providing this chart about Elections Canada, what they have contributed over the past 10 years. And so am I correct in understanding that they only fund, initially they were not the primary financial supporter, they contributed about half of the project contribution. That was the case for the 04 election, 06 election, and then for 2008 and 2011 they have funded 100% of that. But they only provide funding just for the federal election timeframes, is that correct?
For the federal election project. We're probably one of the few groups that appreciated the minority governments because we could do 16
Yes,
years.
you may have been.
16
yes.
years of work in about half the time. Yeah, they don't give us money annually. They've given us on occasion, I think it's important to point out, so for their Democracy Week, I don't know how it's on their books, but they've sponsored me to speak at the Parliamentary Teachers Institute, which is a great honor. They put in $23,000 to help us kick off our federal rep day, which got representatives in from across the country. But that money is only for federal election projects, which are about a year long. I'd like to start working right now, which is why I'd like to clear this up on the 15 federal election, because it's a lot of work.
Right. So, okay.
Three senators remaining on this list, and I asked them to be brief and the responses as well, and Senator McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Gunn, for appearing before this committee, and thank you for your presentation. You have a good sense of humor. I'm sure the students must have really enjoyed your presentation. I understand that recently you appeared before the House Affairs Committee on behalf of your organization. You've made a presentation and submitted documents. How did that go? Was the committee receptive regarding the concerns that your organization has?
Well, I went so far as to meet with the chair before my attendance at the committee. I had a phone conversation with MP Reid and MP Lukuski and a quick email back and forth with Mr. O'Toole. I feel like I was treated respectfully. I was on a panel of with three other colleagues sharing an hour, and we all had 5 minutes, and Harry Neufeld was the hour before us. So how much we really took the stage that day is questionable, but I felt that I was received well. It's just that we need an answer, or we need to see a fix. So I don't know.
D'abord, félicitations pour le travail.
First of all, congratulations for the work that you do with young people, with students. There's an experience in the most recent election on Monday in Quebec, where the chief electoral officer put at the disposal of students on campuses polling stations. They could actually vote right there on campus, and about 15% of students exercised their franchise. Are there other areas where in Canada where students can vote on campus? Perhaps it's just not sufficient. It takes organizations like yours to improve their franchise.
Agencies across Canada, in our experience, are terribly focused on how to enfranchise everyone. I know the brand of Elections Ontario is we make voting easy. I'll say that again just so you can hear that. We make voting easy. That's the brand of Elections Ontario. They are trying to do it in any way possible. Campus ballot stations, we have heard from, although it's out of our demographic, our young people are yearning for them. They're yearning for a way that they can go and participate. I mean, this gets into a little bit of the vouching, and I do suggest some, I think you want to work hard on that issue. I, for example, traveled here today with my health card. That's the only ID that I have. I know that's embarrassing to say at age 36, but it has no residency on it, right? If I had to vote tomorrow, and luckily my wife handles all the money, so I don't have really any bills in my name, I would need someone to vouch for me. So, I mean, I think I'm a acceptable enough citizen that I should be participating. It's just something, you know, there are some people out there that really just don't have proof of residency like others do, and I do think that no one would want to be responsible for that sort of administrative challenge.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. I do want to talk a little bit about the chart here again, and I apologize for being a bit late this afternoon.
No problem.
You have 29 results listed here. When it says elected in student vote, there are 5, I think, that say they are not. But yet you have their numbers recorded. Could you explain that? Like, they weren't elected in the student vote. Was there somebody then that had a higher percentage of the vote? Why wouldn't their name be here?
The ballots cast number beside their name is not the individual ballots they received for themselves. It's the total ballots cast in that electoral district through the student vote program.
Great, I understand.
Yeah.
So that would be my first question. Second question is, there has been much talk about that this bill is designed by conservatives to suppress the vote, and out of the 29, however, 21 of those are conservative-held ridings, so I would say that we have a pretty good track record and would be silly to try to suppress the vote if we can do that with students.
I would agree. I would agree. And the only thing that I've seen that really gave me any reason to why some of the Section 18 things were going on was an article in the Aurelia Packet and Times. And it was MP Bruce Stanton who said that he felt that Elections Canada could be seen as unbiased if they were promoting participation within groups that traditionally, he thinks, don't vote for a certain party. And if I could just correct the fact that there is no proof that young people don't vote Conservative.
Hear, hear.
And I also would advise any political party, anyways, I think I've said enough, that our results do
No,
not...
continue saying that.
I just don't think anyone should think they have the youth vote.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Gunn. Very interesting presentation, and we appreciate your appearance here today.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll,
Good luck in your...
recess briefly before hearing from our next witness.